Knowledge graphs and ontologies have become mature technologies for management of complex data ecosystems. Here we see a tiny part of a knowledge graph with more than 20 million nodes that captures all of Victoria's foundation hydrology data. Yet, despite huge potential to transform spatial data ecosystems, knowledge graphs and ontologies are used infrequently in practice in geospatial applications today. One barrier to making the transition is spatial data that remains locked in conventional tabular or key-value data formats. Traditional data formats lack the connection to standard ontologies needed to enhance the meaning and value of that data. For example, official place name data in Australia is stored and maintained by different authorities in Australia's states and territories. Today, each authority uses slightly different data formats and structures, which can be difficult to integrate. Australia's place naming authorities are working together to produce place name knowledge graphs in the future and have already defined a consistent ontological standard for describing place names. But in transition, integrating today's un-enriched place name data can be difficult and laborious. At RMIT's Geographic Knowledge Lab, we have been developing new techniques that make this transition from conventional spatial data to knowledge graphs smoother, easier, and simpler. The approach is known as semantic enrichment of spatial data. The idea is to precisely describe the logic behind the mapping using a technology called declarative mapping languages. Declarative mapping languages help separate the structure and logic of semantic enrichment from its mechanism and implementation. In turn, this makes the semantic enrichment process much more transparent and reusable. To demonstrate the power of the approach, we used our semantic enrichment technique to bring together Australia's place name data into a single knowledge graph for the first time. The knowledge graph integrates all of Australia's gazetted places using a consistent, standard ontology. This website enables people to explore Australian place names from across the different jurisdictions as a single, integrated dataset. Because the data is structured as a knowledge graph, the data links place names and geometry with contextual information about when and how and by whom place names were created, captured, and changed, all structured using the naming authority's publicly available and standard ontology. For example, some jurisdictions only capture point locations as place names. Others capture named regions and linear places. Using semantic enrichment, all are integrated into a single place name knowledge graph. And because the approach uses declarative mapping languages, it's easy to adapt, reuse, and rerun the semantic enrichment process as many times as needed. For example, whenever legacy source data is updated. The lead RMIT researcher, Naomi Ranamukha, is working with the RMIT Advanced Cloud Ecosystem team, the RACE facility, to develop a public version of our Australian place name knowledge graph later this year.